I have a function here, I give it a pass it a string. The first thing this function does, it takes that string and makes that object for me, right? And that was what I did over here. I have this object from string function. Remember I wrote that? So this object from string function takes a string and creates an object out of the string with numbers, keys and values. Looks like this. Why don't I just show you? Let's take this. Bring it over here. Drop it in here. And we go. Object from string. Hi class. Are you excited to work from home tomorrow? I give it a string. If everything works correctly, which I haven't tested it, so if this breaks, don't be surprised. Yeah, it does. Includes punctuation. Oh yeah, because I need my includes punctuation. And I'm also going to need my remove last char. The unfortunate part of doing these things. And I get this back. I get an object. I gave it a string, and I get an object back with keys, all the words, and the amount of times that it shows up. Cool? Okay, so we got that. So that's what this one does. Object from string. So I take that, I take this object, and I start going through it, one by one. I start off with most occurrences being 0 and longest word being empty. And then I start going through this string one by one. I look at the first one, and I say, is 1 bigger than most occurrences, which is right now 0? The answer is yes. So most occurrences now equals 1, and longest word is hi. And that's what this if statement does. Then I go through the next, I go to the next word. Okay, is 1 greater than 1? Right? This occurred one time. Is 1, that's what this is getting. This little piece here gives me this number. Is 1 greater than the value that's in here, which we updated to 1 last time because we put this in it, because that was the longest word we found. Is 1 greater than 1? Is it greater than 1? No. But we also have this else. Actually, this isn't else if. Else if is if 1 equals 1. Yep. And the length of the word class is long. Oh, interesting! Exclamation mark. Didn't count that. Oh well.
I took them out. Because we did
But
not
you,
custom.
but you didn't follow it. Then you didn't follow the rules.
I only did the punctuation thing.
If you took question mark and exclamation mark out, that's fine.
Only for that.
Okay. Then we look at class, and we say, is class longer than hi? That's what this and is saying. And if it is, we just say class is the new longest word. We don't have to update occurrences because they have the same amount of occurrences. Once that's done, we do that for all the words. Then we go to the next one, then we go to the next one. Finally, we find one that has 3. So we change the longest word, we change the occurrences. We keep going, we keep going, we keep going. Until finally, we run out of words, and we return this object. This object is going to look like this. For this sentence here, it would look like this. Word, you. That is the longest word. How many times does it occur? Occurrences? 3. So we end up by getting this information back, this little piece of information. The word that occurred the most and how many times it occurred. And that's what this function gives us back. Okay. Does that help? So the actual intricacies of the function. Now I don't even know if this works. This wouldn't have worked because I missed something, but we'll debug it after. Okay. The actual intricacies of like all this stuff, I want you to sit with and figure out because it's all stuff that you should know, right? Object, array, set assignment, right? But a lot of times it's the thought process behind all these things. Okay. And again, if it helps, you can take things like this out. You can throw them into functions, and you can give that function a name, and then you can just call that function. All right. We're still going through these. Question 2. No, question 4. How many vowels occur in the paragraph? How can I do this one?
Two lowercase first. Everything.
2 lowercase. So my thought process on this one, I have a string. I don't care about spaces. I don't care about punctuation. All I care about right now is vowels. Go through each character in that string and see if it's a vowel. And if it is, increase some counter. So let's make a function that does that. Const vowel count equals function. Take a string. And we'll start our vowel count at 0. We'll go through each character in the string. Strings can be treated like arrays with for loops. So we can loop through a string with a for loop. So, what's that? Can you do for-f? Never tried that. For, let character of string, and I'll just ask, if character dot 2 lowercase, right? We have to 2 lowercase it because it might be a capital A.
Can we lowercase it at the beginning, not inside?
Yeah, you can lowercase the whole thing. You can, actually that's not a bad idea. You can do this. You can do this right in here. It's still a string. 2 lowercase still gives you a string. So that actually works pretty good.
I just let possible values for vowels equal A, I, O, U in uppercase and lowercase.
That works too. Okay, again, everyone's is going to be different. Okay, guaranteed with 100% certainty that your solution is 75% different than mine. Here's another, and then I want to ask if character is a vowel. Okay, it's not a question I can ask. Okay, so I can create a function that just says is a vowel and then return true or false. But I have a little trick up my sleeve I want to show you. This is pretty common. I'm going to make an array of vowels. A, E, I, O, O, U. And I'm going to ask if the character that we're looking at is in this array. With includes. So does the vowels array include the character? Does the vowels include this character? Is this character in here? Is it, if it's in here, true, it's a vowel. And we say vowel count plus plus. And then we return vowel count. And guess what? Punctuation, identical. Copy, paste, punctuation, count, punctuation, semicolon, comma, period, change the name, oh I did already,
I know, yeah.
punctuation, includes character, punctuation count,
So many functions.
punctuation count, and punctuation count. Oh, got a little problem, can't call this punctuation count and call this punctuation count.
Punctuation counter.
Counter, sure. And same thing before with this vowel count, vowel counter. There. All right. So this is Q5. This is Q4. And now we have functions to give me every single piece of information that I need. All I need to do, and all these functions take a string. String, 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 string. Okay. So, how do I print this out? Well, I can just do a giant console log right here with a big fat string. Okay. And then I can call my functions from in here. So I can say word count. So for example, I can say, I'm just going to copy this, paste this in. There are a total of, delete 45 and change that to $ this, and say word count paragraph. And if I wanted to do this 3 times with 3 paragraphs, I can come in here and I can change paragraph. I can go up at the top and I can say paragraph now equals this, paragraph now equals that. Or I can make this even better and I can say const results equals function string or paragraph or whatever you want to call it, and it will just take that. It'll console log for me, it'll print out all the results for me, then all I have to do is say results, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and I can store 3 paragraphs in here and get it all done really quick. That was paragraph 2. Again, not necessary, just some little tricks here. Paragraph 3. And there you go. Paragraph 1, 2, 3. Calling the print function with the 3 of them. Let's finish up this print function. So the first thing we do is we print out word count. Second thing we do is we print out unique word count. 40 is going to be unique word count, string, right? Because we're taking in that string. 71 vowels, that was vowel count, string. And we had, this one is punctuation count, string. Most occurring word is, this is where it gets interesting. Most occurring word. I'm going to keep that those double quotes there. Most occurring word, string. What does most occurring word return?
The object.
An object. An object with two properties. So I'm going to access one of those properties right here. Dot, word. And how many times? Well, I'm going to call it again and rerun it, which is kind of silly. Occurrences. I would probably identify this as like, I don't need to run this twice. It gave me the same piece of information both times. What I should probably do is take this out, put it in a variable, and then just take the information out of that variable, like this. Right, this is a function console log. Sorry, const. Most occurring word. Most occurring. There, now it's only running the function once. That was a lot of code not to test. So I'm at 105 lines, 104 lines. This does 3. The nice thing about this, everything's broken down really small, really nicely. So it's actually fairly easy to find an error. I'm gonna try running this. Is that right? Was? Yeah? Duh?
Yeah.
Huh? That's probably the most code I've ever written that didn't end up in an error ever in my life. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Okay, but I want to show you something. So again, totally different than what I would expect. I'll show you my test. So when I decide on something, when I'm like, this is what I'm going to give for an assignment. Great idea, I like it. Good practice with arrays, good practice with objects, hard but not too hard. A lot of the points are focused on things that I know you can do, right? If you had a hard time with number 3, well, you know what? You're still coming out of this with 70%, right? Counting paragraph, like at least, there's a lot of points on the board here for you to pick up. So I'm happy with it. Now, is this possible? I ask myself. And I've tricked myself many times in the past and say, yeah, totally possible. Students will be able to do this without ever actually doing it myself. So I've gotten into the habit of doing it myself. And I have to do this at night, right? On a weekday to try to figure it out. I'm rushing. I don't want to take more than 45 minutes to an hour because I've already got other stuff to do. So this is what my code looks like in 45 minutes when I haven't had reasonable time to think things through. Not a single function in the whole thing. All my variables are declared right at the top globally. I've got this const paragraph right here and right here. When you should ask me on Friday, can you tell me the output for paragraph 2? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me just add paragraph 2 in here, and then, oh man, I have to change paragraph here, and here, and here, and here, and here. I have to change it all over the place. I don't have a single function. It's only 46 lines long. But understanding this is going to be way harder, and managing any changes. When someone says, John, you've got a bug, I have to go look, where could this bug be? It could be anywhere, because it's not, my code isn't self-contained in a function. So it's harder to reason about. It's shorter, but that may not be better. It's way harder to understand. So this might, if I didn't say use functions, this is what you might have handed in, which is fine, but it's actually harder. You can bang it out quicker, but the problems are still the same. You're still trying to solve the same problems. Like if you look at this, my concepts, the way I'm solving these problems, they're still the same, right? Checking to see if it's undefined, checking length, includes paragraph, like it's still the same things.
Could you also post that one?
Do you want me to post this one?
Yes,
Doesn't work very well, but sure. All right. So I'll post both solutions. So this is what I do. This took me about 45 minutes or so. Okay, from zero, from like just thinking of this as an assignment to building this. About 45 minutes, rushing. This is rushing. Okay, but I had bugs. Right? You guys pointed out some of the bugs that I had. I had bugs, and that's what you get for rushing. Okay, so I just want to show you the difference. Yes, way longer, but I would argue way more understandable and better. We don't get paid per line, or we don't get paid, or it doesn't cost us for every line that we do. The idea is that if we come back and we need to make sense of this later, or we need to change something, this is much more manageable. All right, I'll post both of these. So I'll say the in-class solution, and that will be this one, and then I'll say the John's at home solution. All right. New stuff. 3 days of new stuff. Sorry, it's going to go a little longer today because of the stupid interruption at the end. We're probably going to be working at home tomorrow. Like 95% chance that we will be working at home tomorrow. Do you mind showing her? We can show you Zoom at lunch. That's the only thing missing. The app that we're going to be using. And if we're not, I'm not taking attendance anyways. So I'll be here though. All right. Hi. Just 1 second. No. Hi.
大家也可以随时睡觉，对，就怕一会儿睡着了。
Alrighty. So today we're going to talk about something new. We're going to talk about
What's that? No, I do. I don't wanna miss anything. It's just.
You wanna know what I would do? I just want that.
We're gonna talk about the DOM. The DOM. Can anyone tell me what the DOM is? Does anyone know what the DOM is? Document? Yeah. Okay, so we know what the acronym stands for. Document. Object. Model. But that doesn't help us, or does it? If I told you the document refers to the HTML document. That HTML that we write, that's the document. Okay, so here's a document. Okay, here's a document. It's a page of HTML. And I say, now, go, take that, and make a JavaScript object out of it. So it's going to be a bunch of like, you're like, how am I going to make a JavaScript object out of this? Well, maybe I'll make each like element a key and give it some sort of value, right? So you're modeling the HTML document as a JavaScript object. That's essentially what the DOM is. And actually, we've been using it the whole time, and we haven't even noticed. So if you go to your browser, and you go to any page, doesn't matter, go to Amazon. By the way, I've been watching Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
It's good. If you like that sort of stuff. It's kind of violent. Okay. The DOM. This thing right here. This is a representation of our document as a JavaScript object. This is the DOM. This stuff over here. This is not the HTML. This is the browser taking that HTML and parsing it into pieces, clickable pieces that we can open and close and look at and right-click and inspect. It's adding a whole bunch of functionality to the DOM. So this itself is not the DOM. This is the DOM plus some stuff. But the DOM is an object that the browser has built for us based on our HTML document that we've provided it. It does some stuff, fixes any errors. Sometimes we forget to put a closing div. It happens. Oh, but yet our web page still works. What the hell? The browser's really good at figuring stuff like that out. So it parses it, finds if there's any pieces missing, fixes those pieces. So if I were to leave out a div, closing div tag, I might find it's been added in here because the browser fixes it up, and then it creates this representation. It kind of looks a little bit like this, but we're going to be working with it in JavaScript, so it's not going to be a visual representation. It's going to be a representation in a virtual representation that we're going to interact with. Okay. One of the things about the DOM is it really only exists in, not exclusively, but it's something special that a browser or some sort of application needs to create for us. It is not created by the JavaScript language. It is created using the JavaScript language by some sort of application like a browser. So pretty much all the stuff that we do, we won't be able to highlight and hit play on because the DOM doesn't exist in here. Okay? We require the browser to create the DOM for us. So the browser needs to take that HTML, create the DOM, and then we interact with that DOM through JavaScript. So it'll be very much like JavaScript. It is JavaScript. I'll be introducing to you some new stuff, but we won't be able to just highlight and push play. We need that index.html. We need to be running, well, we don't need it. We can run this code in here. Well,
Wow.
we can run this code in here, no problem, but we can't run it over here. Errors. Because a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you, they're methods and functions that exist on the document object. We're used to using objects. The array object, the object, the string object, right? All these things have methods. The string object, the array object, those are JavaScript objects. This is a document object that's created by the browser for us. Okay, and the top level object is called document. So, if you're on Amazon, fire up your console. We're going to explore the document a little bit here. Type in document. And hit enter. Okay, and it came back and it said hashtag document. This is our first object. This is the top level representation of our DOM, the document. We can click on this little down arrow and it's going to get crazy. Holy shit, what's this? This is this. When you click on this down arrow, this is the same thing. Interesting. We've got a couple of additional little pieces of additional pieces that are already built in for us. So we have our top level document. And we also have a shortcut, document.body. So go ahead and type in document.body. This is a property on the document object, right? Document object, property, and we get our body. And if you're not in full screen like I am, and you were to hover over that, it does the same thing. Okay? If you're wondering what all these things are, flying by, these errors, that is Amazon. It looks like Amazon trying to go out and get advertisements, but I have an ad blocker, so it tries to go out to get an advertisement, and it says, oh, I can't go out and get an advertisement to present to you because your ad blocker is blocking me. So that's what I can't really turn these off.
I have a question. It seems like that I have to enter twice, not once.
So you document, enter. Well, yeah. Well, enter, right? Enter to clear this, and then enter. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. The document is built up of essentially two different types of what we call nodes. Okay, so the document consists of nodes. Does anyone know where that word nodes comes from? Does anyone, do you have plants? Alright, so on a plant there's little nodes, and the nodes are where the leaves and the branches come from. So oftentimes if we were to think of a tree outside, right? Tree's small, then a little node, split, then a little node, leaves, okay, branches. So the document, the DOM, is really a tree. And these things at the end, or along the way, where they split, they're called nodes. Just like a tree, it's an upside down tree. The trunk of this tree, if we were to think about it, is document, right? The top level element,
Oh, not is the union between trees, branch.
yeah. So the top level document here, this is our trunk. It's not technically called that. I'm just trying to make a comparison. And then all these little pieces here, these are all nodes. Everything. Everything is a little node. They're called nodes. That is a technical term too. They are called nodes. Nodes can represent one of two things. They can either represent an element, and if we step back and we think about our HTML, we essentially had two different things. We had elements, and we had things that go inside elements. Does anyone remember what we called that? Well, we had elements inside elements,
Yeah.
but HTML, remember HTML, day 1, day 2. Right, we had text, content. Right, content could be anything. Content could be text, or content could be more elements. So we have elements and we have text. Those are the two things we have. So nodes are essentially split between those two things. Element nodes and text nodes. But they're all nodes. The DOM is made up of nodes, a bunch of different nodes. And every node is either an element or a piece of text. And that piece of text can be anything. It could be a comment. It can be paragraphs. Not the paragraph
No, inside
element,
the elements.
not the paragraph element, but the stuff inside the paragraph element. And we can access all of it from our JavaScript. Every single last little bit, anything we can get. We just have to learn how to navigate through it. Because it's a tree, we need to know how to get to the point in the tree that we want to get that piece of information. Okay, and you know, having written HTML, it can get kind of complicated to navigate. So today we're just going to look at some methods to walk through it. That's all we're going to do. Today we're going to learn how to get the stuff we want. Tomorrow we're going to learn how to modify the stuff we want. And what can we modify? And how do we modify it? And then on Wednesday, we're going to tie into this kind of event system that the browser's created so we can listen to what people are doing. Do something when the mouse moves, do something when a user clicks, do something when a user scrolls. Okay? There's a complex system of things that are occurring in the browser that we can tie into. Okay? So this is kind of the most enjoyable part of the course, because now we're looking to make interactivity. But to get there, we need to have 3 days worth of stuff. So walking the dog. We already looked at two pieces. We looked at document body. That's a shortcut. We looked at document. And there's also another one, document.head. What do you think document.head is? The head part, yeah. So if we just open that. Okay, so here's the other thing. I'm showing you these really beautiful colored representations in here where you can click and open it. But in JavaScript, the way we're going to be working with it, they're just more objects. We ask for document.body. We don't get back this beautiful representation. We get back an object with more methods on it and more pieces of information, properties. And you'll see that. And they have a ton. Each node, be that either an element or text, has a ton of stuff. So much stuff. Okay? we're only going to look at a small slice. Because a lot of the stuff, you really only need a little bit to do a lot. Okay? There might be, you only need 20% of the information to do 80% of the stuff that you wanted. That last 20%, you might need some more specialty stuff. So there's a lot of specialty stuff. We won't be talking about that. We'll be talking about very general stuff. So, let me grab this, because I've got some code samples in here. All right. So, we have, let's take this little code sample here. And let's build a little page with it. So we'll make a new file, index.html. I'm going to paste this in it. And actually, I'm going to leave that out. All we're going to have is this. Is this the HTML that we're used to? No, this is not complete. But I'm going to run with this anyways. And yeah, okay, let's run with this anyways. And I'm not even going to attach JavaScript to it. We're going to open it in the browser. Little thing here. We're going to quickly inspect it. We're going to take a look at what the browser interpreted for me. Look, it added tags. This is the DOM. This is the browser taking my document, correcting it, adding stuff that is necessary. It added a head, it added HTML, and it added a body. And we're going to use this piece of HTML. Okay? We're going to navigate using a couple of methods. Okay? The first method we're going to look at is child nodes. And this is all in your reading. Okay? So it's called child nodes. So we're going to start at the top. Now we can apply this. The function child nodes, it's a function. It applies to any element, any node. And pretty much all of these things are nodes. I'll show you what I mean. Document dot child nodes. Is it a, yeah, I think it's a, oh, sorry, it's not a function, it's a property. Sometimes you have to know what to put braces on and what you don't. Child nodes. So you can see, I call document.childNodes and I get something back. It's not an array, but it's kind of like an array. What do you think's in here?
Or text?
Just think about the things that what did I say the document is built of?
Nodes.
Nodes.
Yeah.
Okay? And document is the trunk of the tree, and nodes are all the little different pieces where they split out.
It's like a map.
And I'm getting back a list
Of the node.
of children nodes. So let's take a look at that. This is going to be not too bad. It's got one child node. Because I asked for child nodes. Children here are direct. Okay? Parent is direct. We have two parents, but let's pretend we only have one set of parents, right? One parent. If we go back further than that, do you remember the terminology we use for parent of parents of parents of parents? Ancestors. Ancestors. We have another terminology, another piece of vocabulary that references children of children of children of children. Descendants.
Descendant.
Okay? So we're not talking about descendants here, we're talking about my children. So document has one child, it is HTML. And HTML, I wonder if I can just go HTML. No. That's fine. We have body. How many children, if I had a body tag around here, how many children does body have? 2, 3, 2, 2. Which two? Div and UL. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Document.body, child notes. Four. Why
Because
4?
all of them.
Oh, that has text.
The text inside is treated differently. So we have 4, div and text, UL and text. Okay. The text is treated very special. Okay. And this thing looks a lot like an array. And you can access it a lot like an array. For example, document.body child nodes, element
The
gives me, well, again, this is the browser being pretty.
Oh,
In real JavaScript, the way we're working with it, it's not going to look like this. It's just an object. Pretend this is just an object. But we can access it like that. Which means if we wanted to, we could write a small loop that goes document.body.child nodes for loops or for of loops only, not for each loops, because it's not an array. It's what we call it. It's array-like. It's like an array, but it's not an array. Okay, it's a list or a collection. So for let node of child nodes console.log node. And I'll put this before the ending body here. Actually, let's put it down here and see if this actually runs. Save this. And we'll that. Hey! And it ran. It ran stuff. And the interesting thing is, it found itself. It found itself. It printed out itself because it's a node. Yeah. And the browser corrected me. And if we look at console, it will actually put that inside the body. Because even though I made a mistake in putting it outside the body here, the browser's like, no, that's incorrect. And the browser tries to correct itself. But this is also a node. And so now we ended up with text, begin, text, UL, okay? So we're just grabbing the nodes, we're printing them out, not a big deal. Okay, child nodes. We can also ask for the first child. What is the first child of body? Div. So instead of looping over, let's say document, and let's actually just refresh, say document.body.first child. Text, apparently. Yeah, wasn't expecting that. Was not expecting that.
Does it also let you call it like nth child?
No, so we have last child. So the 3 methods we have are child nodes, first child, last child. So we get the first, the last, but children, and so these first child, last child, next child, everything has methods on it. every node has these methods on it. So even the node that I grabbed has first child on it as well. But it also has other ones, like so this is how we navigate. We can go down, and then we can go left or right, right? Once I go into a family, first child, I can go next sibling. Then I can go from that sibling and go to next sibling. And then I can go to previous sibling and previous sibling. So once I'm in, I can go all the way down, I can go all the way back up. When I hit something that doesn't exist anymore, like I get to the end, the youngest sibling, the last child, and I say next sibling, what's the next sibling? Undefined. Yeah, so I can go next sibling, right? So we said first child was text, which was surprising. I guess it takes the text out first. This is surprising to me too. I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Next sibling. Begin. Next sibling. Text. And then we said there was 4, right? Next sibling. UL. But actually there's 5 because I have those script tags in there. Next sibling. Text. Next sibling. Let's keep going. Script. There's probably text in here too.
Yeah.
Empty string. Next sibling. Text. Empty string text. And then next sibling. No. Okay, so we don't get undefined. That's right. Something I forgot. In the DOM, we don't get undefined. We get nulls. So where do nulls exist? This is where they exist. It's not undefined, it's null.
Does it have the conceptually same value as undefined in the
Virtually, but you can't compare it to undefined. Undefined
It's just not there.
equals null? No. But not null will give us a true or false value of null. It is false. Just like undefined, not false. They are both false. And if you try to do something on null, you'll get an error. Just like if you try to do something on undefined, you'll get an error. It's virtually the same. Undefined and null are virtually the same, but they are technically different. Okay. So don't worry too much about that. So as you can see, nodes are collections. A node, we get a node list. And that node list consists of element and text. But you may have noticed something. When I typed in document.body dot child nodes child. Okay, as soon as you start hitting dot, these are all the methods and properties that exist on pretty much every node. Now again, we're only going to look at 10% of them.
That's a lot.
Okay?
That's a lot.
So let's see what else. Is there anything?
Get.
Child element count first node, first element child. What do you think you're going to get there? If we're separating them into elements and text, you're going to get that div. And then we can go next element sibling. What do you think you're going to get there? So there's that separation. Everything is a node, including elements and text. However, when we want to deal with elements, there's a lot of features so we can just deal with elements. Because sometimes we don't care about the text. I think we might even be able to say first text node. No. So first child, first element child. So you can see one returns a node, one returns an element. And that's because these two together are nodes. So they both fit into the node category. So this would return both. This one only returns these ones. So a subset. And you're gonna have to get used to that. This is broken down into subsets too, right? Because we have input elements, and we have image elements, and we have link elements, and they all kind of have very minor differences of things we can do with them and things that we can't do with them. But all of those are elements, all elements are nodes, all text is nodes, okay? And when we're getting these things, they're called collections. We may end up with a collection of elements or a collection of nodes, right? I can ask for child, can I ask for child elements? Children, I think children gives me child elements only. So it dropped the text, and it gives me child elements, children. Again, some of these things you'll just have to like read up on and explore. But the important thing is identifying the difference. And note that this is document.body.children and document.body.child nodes. They're two different things that we got back. One of them we got an HTML collection. The other one we got a node list. Notice, neither of them are called arrays, but they kind of both look like arrays. And again, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with are not arrays. They are array-like. Kind of like a string is not an array, it's array-like. We can iterate over a string with a for each, a for of. We can use a for loop with a counter to go through it. We can access these things using indexes, and they have a length. But all those filter and push and pop and for each, those don't exist on these.
All of these code that you are putting there is a JavaScript code, or is
Yeah. Yeah, it's just JavaScript,
okay
but these only exist
inside the web.
inside the browser. The browser made these functions and properties. The browser made this. Remember the object we were working with that I made, occurrences and word? I made that one object that was tiny. The JavaScript browser, the browser made a gigantic object with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things on it.
It's like a
That's
browser,
all. That's what document is.
like a browser API, something like that.
It's just a giant object. It's just one giant object with tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff on it. And only exists in the browser. And all this stuff only exists in the browser. .length doesn't exist in the browser. .length is a property, right? But again, node list, HTML collection, they're array-like. And in some cases, you may find that you want to work with an array, an actual array, and so you can convert these things to an array with this. Array.from. And you pass it the thing you want to convert to an array. This will actually take the children, this HTML collection, and convert it to an array. Now I have an actual array of 3 elements. 3 HTML elements. Div, UL, script. And see, that all that highlighting and stuff, that still works. It's crazy. I mean, again, that's just the browser doing some funky stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going around here. We got document dot body dot first element child. Let's go to the first element child. I don't like dealing with text very often when I'm dealing with, honestly, when I'm navigating around, I don't like navigating through text. I like to deal with elements. So I tend to use first element child. However, sometimes you'll want to check. It depends what you're trying, depends what your goal is. We have both. First element child. What's the parent of first element child? Body. And guess what? We have a couple things here. Parent node, parent element, we can get the parent. We can go down and we can go up. So we can go down, we can go left and right with previous sibling, next sibling.
Up and down.
We can go back up, parent element, and we're back where we started.
Yeah.
So we went from body down to the first child, then we go from body, first child, back up to parent. So now that we can go in, left and right, and back up, and then next, so then I can go parent element, does parent element have a sibling?
Yeah.
Does body have a sibling?
Yes. HTML.
No, parent element, actually, that's a good question. I wonder if parent element is HTML. Oh, it is. Cool. Does HTML have a parent element?
Document.
No.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there anything that will display your DOM as a tree? Kind of like, file directory or show?
Document. Click. Open it up.
Okay.
Click. Open it up. Click. Open it up.
Yeah.
But I mean, or this. Right? The element browser that we've been using the whole time.
Okay, that already is.
It's the same thing. Yeah. But in Java, again, this is in the browser, when we're playing in here, it's providing us visual representations of our objects. When we're writing our JavaScript, like we're still going to be writing our JavaScript in here. Right? You won't be using this, you won't get that visual representation. It's about thinking about that visual tree and navigating, okay, next one, next one, next one. Because I'm going to ask you, okay, grab all these elements, go through them, look at, go find this element, go find that element. Okay? Children, 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 yeah. Okay. So, that's all great, but this seems like excessively difficult, right? To navigate through the DOM. Can you imagine, like, here's a tree. Okay, start at this point here and get to that node over there. Okay, go in, go left, go up. It's like a maze. That seems insane. There should be a way that I can say, go to the finish point. Go to exactly where I want to go. And of course there is. Okay, so we have several different ways of doing that. And these are all methods that exist on nodes, all nodes, except for one method. We are going to find that we're mostly going to start our stuff with document dot, because this belongs on the DOM, and this is the DOM. DOM is document. Document dot. Get element by ID. Huh. Do I have an element with an ID in here? What's that one? Put it right here on information. ID equals test. Save that. Copy. Refresh. Okay. Get element by ID. Get element by ID takes a string. What do you think the string is? The ID of the element that we're looking for. And boom, we get that element object. Just like that.
Like that.
Okay, couple things.
Get elements.
How many elements with an ID can we have? How many elements with the ID test can we have on this page? Well, okay, We're only supposed to have one.
Yeah,
HTML doesn't throw any errors if we have more. But because we're only supposed to have one, how many elements do you think this is going to return?
All the heuristics.
Think about that a little bit more carefully.
The,
If we're
The
only
first one.
supposed to have one, what is the expectation?
the first one?
yeah.
There's only one, the first one that it finds.
Yeah.
Because there should only be one element with the word test, which is why on the other side, when we're writing our HTML, it's so important that we only use that ID one time. If we use it twice,
Yeah.
and we want to get the second element with the ID test, that's not going to happen. Okay? Next piece. Fresh. Added a couple classes. Document dot get. How, before I even write this, how many elements with the same class can we have on this page? So if I have the class test as a class, which I do, how many elements can have this class test?
Many.
As many as I want. Which means if I'm going to get something by class, do you think I'm getting one or I'm getting many? Many. So it's not get element, it's get elements by class name. Get element by ID, get elements by class. Super important difference. Such a problem for new developers. Big time problem. Guaranteed it'll happen to you about 50,000 times in the next 3 days. Okay? So no matter how many times I stress this. And our class, again, is test. Here's the thing to notice. When I'm asking for the class, or when I'm asking for the ID, I only need to pass it a string because it knows, even though they have the same class and the same ID, test and test, it knows only to look at classes. Or when I was asking for ID, it knows only to look at ID. What do you think I'm going to get back? All of them. As what?
Array like?
What's that?
Array like? The thing you said.
Array-like. Yeah, as an array-like collection.
Yeah.
An HTML collection. Everything that, and then it's, don't worry about this. It's still only too long. It's, again, this is just the browser doing some tricky stuff. I had to look that up, actually. Okay, just the browser doing some tricky stuff. Okay, but really this number is what's important, and this is what's important. These two. 0 and 1. Don't worry about this, don't worry about that. Okay, we're just exploring here. This is what's important, the number. That number is the length. It's an HTML collection. When I asked for 1, I got the element. When I ask for many, I get a collection. That's an important difference because a collection
You can transform
has
it.
different information on it. Like for example, a collection has a length. This, get element by ID, that does not have a length. And if it does, yeah, that does not have a length. So they're different things that we're getting back. And that's really important. This collection, this HTML collection, is essentially, when we did get element by class by ID, we got one of these from the collection. That's what this is. So this collection is multiple of what we get from there. Multiple elements. This is a collection of elements. This is a single element. Okay? Just like an integer, an array of integers. They're different. Arrays have things that integers don't have on them. That's the same thing that's happening here. Get elements by class name. Get element by ID. I'm going to show you 2 more, then we're going to go for lunch. Actually, wait, maybe we'll, yeah, okay, let's do 2 more. We'll go for lunch. Document, and again, I start all of these at document. Document dot query selector. This one's a little bit different. This one takes a CSS selector. Remember our CSS selectors? They had dots and hashtags in them. So if I wanted to get one element, query selector gives me one element. The first one it finds that matches the selector I put in here. Div. Or div.test. Give me the div that has a class test. Or give me the first element that you find that has the class test. Unlike get elements by class name and get element by ID, I must include the identifying information that of whether or not it's a class or an ID, but I can also ask for just give me the first div. Right? This is super flexible. Let's see what it responds with when I ask for the first div. Gives me an element back. Watch what happens when I ask for the first li. Because there's multiple li's on this page. No, there's not. There's only one. Let's add another one. Now there's two. Refresh. When I ask for the first li, gives me one li. Gives me one element. But what if I wanted all of them?
Selectors?
Query selector all. And this will give me, again, an array-like collection with this information. An array-like collection with elements inside. But now, it's not elements, because before I was saying, get element by class name, get elements by, get element by ID, get elements by class name. We knew it was an element. But with query selector, because we can be so flexible, we can get other types of nodes other than just elements. So it's not giving me back a collection of HTML collection, it's giving me back a node list. It's still very similar, super similar, right? You could do all the same stuff. It's still it's an array-like collection, but it's of nodes now. Maybe because there might be some text in there if you pick the right text, if you ask for the right stuff. Okay, but generally, it's just going to be an array of elements. It's just an array of elements because it asks for LIs. And I highlight these, and those are my elements. So I got all my elements. So these are all in the reading. Okay, there's a big fat table right at the end that highlights. You can also get by name, get elements by class name, get elements by tag name, or get element by name. And we haven't looked a lot at name. If you're looking for get element by tag name, you can do that too, which is get elements by tag name. Li is the tag name, and we get an HTML collection of 2 LIs, which is pretty much the same thing. The only difference that one's a collection, an HTML collection, one's a node list. They contain the same stuff, but these things are a tiny bit different. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Okay, they still contain the same thing. We can still access them the same way. When we come back, I'm going to show you one more thing, something called scoping. And then I'm going to let you do your stuff. Any questions?
The quotation mark, is it restricted to just a single or?
No, never. It's never restricted to single, double, or backticks. It's whatever the heck you want. It's a string. Okay? Okay. Have a good lunch. Don't eat together.
Thank you.